Welcome back to the 2 Months Podcast. We are presented by Shadified Salon and Barbershop in Edmonton, Alberta, and our guest is in Las Vegas. He is the president of NRX Hockey and RSG Hockey. He has been on with us before. He is a hockey agent for many great NHL players in the NHL and an upcoming player too, and Blake Fiddler, a good friend of ours, and the Verdon Fiddler family. We have Allain joining us. Allain, how's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you back. It's been a while. Last time we did this, we did it in person, so that was pretty cool. This was in the World Junior kind of little bubble seeds in there that they kind of had or whatever in August. But how are things with you? Obviously, you're in Vegas. The draft is going to be there pretty soon here, and are you pretty excited to what you have in store for your clients and getting drafted and anything else going draft wise too? It should be fun.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting to have it in Vegas. Shortest commute in my history for the draft. I got about a 12-mile drive to the Sphere, so
There,
I'm pretty excited about that.
yeah,
Uh, Not so excited about the 110-degree heat that
you're having right now.
yeah, it's hot. It's hot, but I've warned everybody else in the NHL to bring their shorts and bathing suit because it's going to be a hot one. But no, it should be great for the city. This is supposedly our last in-person draft, so it'll be interesting to see how we proceed. It sounds like we're going to go NFL, NBA style, which should be interesting,
Yeah.
and NHL staff members will end up staying in their own cities going forward, and basically doing it, via Zoom, the new preferred matter of a communication, Zoom. So yeah, it is an interesting and exciting week coming up. We got that. We got free agency. It's a big draft for us. Numbers wise, I think on Central Scouting, our agency had about 27 ranked players. So that's going to be a busy draft for us, which should be good. A lot of families want to come in to Vegas because it's Vegas, and
Yeah.
it makes it a fun trip for the family too. Sometimes does end up being a fun trip if you don't go on Saturday. So I'm hoping everybody gets picked. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Is this the most you've ever had in the history of your time in being a president with RSG Hockey?
you know what? As far as ranked players, yes, we always average somewhere around, like, I'd say, 12 to 15 picks every year. So it'll probably end up maybe a little bit higher than that this year.
Yeah.
Uh, but the company's grown. We now have 12 full-time staff members, and so that's helpful too. Having more people on board to help manage the relationships. But yeah, it's the draft is always a roller coaster of emotions, right? I tell these kids we have a little luncheon before the first round, and we kind of take them through what the weekend's going to be like, and we talk about how there's always good surprises and bad surprises,
Yeah.
and that's the only consistency about the draft is there's always stuff that happens they don't expect.
Yeah.
So everybody has to, and it's tough. Like kids come in with large number of family members, they feel the pressure because they don't want to disappoint, but it's not in their control. It's completely out of their control, and that creates a very stressful environment. As a parent, I've got kids. You want the best for your kids. You see your kid not his name not getting called out, the stress builds up. So it is a very stressful weekend for everybody, no matter where you get picked.
Yeah. So do you have everyone that works for RSG Hockey with you at that point in the draft? And are they a big support system for, families? Like obviously you're going to be there and we always see you on TV, like around your kind of players, but how much more of your staff, other agents, support staff would be there to kind of maybe shelter or have conversations if things maybe might have not have gone the way they first thought, but they do
Mhm.
go on later on, but are just there to kind of, ease the conversation, let them know things are going to be okay. How does that process work with an agency or guess your agency, how that would work?
Yeah, we do bring everybody in, so there'll be 10 plus of our staff members here, and it does help, especially if you have a lot of families and there's a lot of moving parts, and teams sometimes want to meet either before or after, or during the draft. So it's good to be able to kind of spread out, and we are one of the agencies that does work as a team, meaning that if you're NRX RSG client, uh, everybody gets to kind of interact with you within the agency. It's not like, okay, this is your player and you just work with that player. We're one of the few agencies that do it this way. And I like that aspect because it just kind of helps everybody get a feel for the company as a whole. And everybody's got different personalities and different things that they're good at and maybe not as good at, right? So it's a good way for us to all play off of our strengths.
And how
Like
and where did that come from? Like obviously, you have a great rapport in the National Hockey League with players, even throughout other agents too. Was that just something that was very near and dear to your heart that you want to make sure that when we get going here and as we blossom this agency, this is a very important tool that we want to have, and meaning everyone's involved, everyone matters. We're all one big family here.
it is a really ingrained in our culture, and as we've added some team members over the years, you find out really quickly if they fit the culture or not. I'm a big culture guy. I really believe that you win or lose with culture, and if you build starting with that ingredient as the main ingredient, the rest will come. The success will come. The players will come. You'll come up with great ideas because you're working together. So that part to me is very very important. And because hockey geographically is such a wide ranging sport, you can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you can't trust your own teammate within the agency to help you manage some of the players when you're not physically there all the time, then you probably can't play on our team.
Yeah.
That's usually how it works out.
It is such a great agency. Obviously, it's something near and near to my heart. When we started this podcast 5 years ago, you joined us and being a guest, and it was something it was awesome. Like it was just like cool to kind of talk hockey with you and talk life with you. And I agree on culture, and it's someone that in the industry very well that you would deal with is in Brad Living, and that's something that I loved about him and love about him is that it's a culture thing to him. And I'm sure all GMs are great to deal with. You deal with them well more than we ever would do on our end, but it is pretty cool that you would start on that way. And and over these years, Al, you've created some really good relationships and added some really good people into the agency. Eric Holla has been with you guys and just joining you guys in the last several years, and Brandon Dillon's with you guys, and you got great guys like Nico Heischer and Brent Burns and Jake Allen. Like all these guys have been with you for a very long time, and some of them have been with you day one. And we have seen this transition period where some players are leaving agencies to come to other agencies. And I want to talk about Brandon Dillon here. And a pending UFA. We'll see what happens in the future as this next few weeks play out. But can you talk about the player, the person he is, and the importance for a player like him in the playoffs? Obviously, a gruesome injury to kind of end his playoffs, but how maybe that recovery is going for him in terms of being ready to start next year, and
Mm-hmm.
also how great of a player that is to work with and a person is to work with him too.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, unbelievable person, a great human being, great dad, great husband. Like he is exactly what you would expect him to be. He has all the right values. You
Run
asked about
hockey
the injury.
camps too, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
that's
he's
another cool.
honestly like he gets it.
Yeah,
He gets that. We're all very fortunate to work in this sport, and he gets how fortunate he is, and it's important for him to kind of give back and really help some of the young guys understand that when they get in the league. So he's definitely a great veteran to have around. You asked about the injury. The best test for his injury is he is golfing. So
there we
so
go.
everything so everything's good.
Yeah,
It was a laceration there on the wrist, and but yeah, everything's back 100%, full workouts, all that good stuff. So
that's
that part is all taken care of. It's unfortunate because I think they needed him at that time,
they
and it
did.
was kind of a freak accident, right? Like one of those things that just happens in a game. But yeah, I mean, he brings a lot of everything that you can't teach to a locker room, and that is on the ice, he plays hard. He's a pain to play against, and but he also put up his best offensive season of his career last year. So even more exciting for him. He takes care of his body like nobody else I've seen before. He probably stretches 90 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Like he kind of goes overboard on taking care of himself, much like Brent Burns does. And those guys that's why they can go forever, because they take care of themselves. But yeah, he's obviously he's a UFA as of July 1. We have not closed the door on Winnipeg. That's been a really good last few years for him in Winnipeg too. And obviously he had a career year this year, so zero complaints there.
Yeah.
But players earn the right to get to free agency and maybe see what else is out there. And at this moment, that's the conversation we're having. But July 1's still a ways away. And yeah, I mean, he's an asset wherever he's going to be.
Yeah.
But I just like him so much as a person and what he brings to. We just finished talking about culture. What he brings to the drive and the professionalism of a team. I think to me is like really like one of his major assets.
Yeah. Talk about another great defenseman, and he signed a great ticket with the Penguins last year, and Ryan Graves. He's been with you for a while now. Can you talk about, his success and, how rewarding that was to kind of get that deal done for him and, the future he has, going forward here and just being one of those great, solid left shot defensemen that this game has?
Yeah, another great guy, Maritimer like myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and now lives in PI in the summer. He's a great example of why young players should always stay positive and not get kind of too focused on what's going on around them, but basically on their own career. He got drafted, had a pretty good junior career. Got drafted into an organization where he really wasn't going to get much of a chance. Uh, it happened that Colorado had a player in a similar situation, similar draft pick, who also wasn't happy. They basically swapped the two players, where it felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. And then once he got to Colorado and somebody showed a little belief in him, he just took off, right? So, we often talk about how hard it is to make the NHL. I firmly believe it's the hardest pro league to make and stay in, because you play so many games, it's so competitive, and it just keeps getting younger and faster. That sometimes guys just get lost in what's going on around them, and I'm not getting a chance, or I'm stuck in a dead end, or I'm getting screwed. Those are the conversations that we have a lot of times with players that we hear from the other side. And yes, some of it is luck, being at the right place at the right time. But when opportunity knocks, you have to perform. And I think that's where the guys who have the great focus, like Brendan and Ryan, really kind of shine through, and they grab the opportunity, don't let go. Because I do think there are too many, especially these younger generations. With social media, there's a lot of people comparing themselves to people they shouldn't be comparing themselves to, and then they get caught up on that, and then you lose your focus. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're behind the eight ball because you took your eye off the ball, right?
Yeah.
You can control what you can control, and I think these type of players, they've been through adversity. Brendan Dillon wasn't drafted; he's a 20-year-old signee. Ryan Graves got drafted, felt like he was in a dead end, but he didn't sit there and complain. He worked his way through it, and eventually something opened up because he kept at it, right? But
Yeah.
if you keep trying to change it or chase it, it's something that really becomes an issue for young players, and then they never find they can never grasp that opportunity because they're not ready for it when it shows up.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. Like this year, I'm, as with my work and the podcast, I took on an assistant coaching role here in Edmonton with the Southside Athletic Club. So I'll be coaching the U17, triple U17 triple A's. And at some point, Al, I would love to get you to Edmonton. I know you do the RSG hockey camps, but I'd love to kind of get you in front of some of these kids to, speak to what you are already speaking to and talk about that culture.
Sure.
How important is it for those conversations to have, in with the young players we have? You talked about it. It's young and it's fast. If you want to play in this game, you want to be successful in this game. You could still be fast and be a veteran player too. And we've seen guys extend their careers longer, but it is somewhat of a young man's game, but you still need that veteran presence. But Any advice you would give to some of those kids that are going to listen to this interview, and even some coaches and some parents in terms of that? Because some of the great conversations I had with you are the advice you can give, parents and kids, that have been private conversations, but giving it a chance to be a little bit more public. What are kind of the things that you would hand your in some of the things you guys talk about at the RSG camps throughout the summer when you guys come to Edmonton and other cities too?
Yeah, for us, I mean, number one is just, creating good habits. If you live like a pro, and it becomes part of your daily routine of being a pro and living like that, eating like a pro, sleeping like a pro, making good decisions, doing your best in school, all those things carry over to your career. Then it becomes part of who you are. It's not a part of the thought process anymore. And I think that's a big one for us is trying to get these young players to create good habits early. But part of the bad habits is a lot of this kind of social media, lack of patience from parents and players. And it's almost frustrating, but our business is getting younger and younger. If you're 13 now and you're a top end player, you're probably talking to advisors or agents at that age, which to me is very young.
Yeah,
Like it's too young, but if we're not there, the other top six agencies are there, right?
correct.
So it is a damn if you do, damn if you don't kind of situation. And then you'll see kids, choose an advisor, an agent at 13, and by the time they're 17 and getting drafted, they're on their third agent, right? And what does that say about character, society?
Yeah,
It's a little bit, to me, that part is a little bit discouraging. Uh, that a lot of people don't want to understand that the more adversity you face, the better you're going to be equipped to deal with it when you need it. Because you face adversity at 13 to 17, who cares, right? It's not going to change your life in a worse way. You don't make a team. You get cut from a tryout. You don't get invited to Hockey Canada or USA Hockey Camp. You know what? Like you're going to survive, and you're going to get many more at bats to prove that you could play. But the parents and the adults that try to protect kids from adversity usually end up damaging them a lot more than just letting them. You got to let them fall once in a while. You got to let them scrape their knee and get back up. And then next time they're going to be ready. And then when they fall again, they're going to get up quicker. And then next time they won't fall. Then all of a sudden, you start growing into who you can be as far as your potential goes. But to me, that is probably like as far as like parents and kids embrace adversity is probably my best advice
yeah,
because people are chasing it, and chasing it by what I mean by that is you have young players and their parents, and they always want to play a level higher than probably the kids at, right? Just because little Bobby across the street's playing at that level and he's the same age, so you should be there too because you're as good as him. And then I've seen so many young players' potential being ruined by chasing it, never being the go-to guy and always being the guy that's trying to get ice time because you're playing a level above where you should be.
yeah.
There's something to be said to being the man, having the puck on your stick, being able to make plays and really being that person, that go-to person. You can't teach that. You have to go through that to learn it. And I think it's really important for parents and kids to understand that.
Well, that's great advice. And our head coach Doug Ockenberg, he played pretty high up. I don't know if you ever came across Doug Ockenberg in your travels at all, but he's done a great job coaching, and he looks at the game the same way you do. And I know if you guys ever have a conversation, it would see eye to eye, and it's very well said by you. And I think it's true because like there's a family I know, like their kid played a couple of years ago, played like tier 2 house hockey, and he had way more success, a lot more fun. But then this past year, he was playing like, yeah, that community, recreation kind of hockey. And then he went and played club hockey. And then, your whole season, you only have 4 wins, and it's tough. Like you get looked at differently. It's like you said, Jimmy across the street plays, club hockey. I got to play club hockey. It's like, well, that doesn't necessarily have to be the story for you at that point. It can be down the road, but, at that point you get, at what cost is it all for? And I agree, facing adversity is a good thing going forward in life. A few more before we get you out. we talked about, we said the name Blake Fiddler at the top. His first year in the Western Hockey League with the Oil Kings. As I say it, you're already smiling. What a great kid! What a great family this they have. Can you talk about Blake as a player and they're representing him and how much that means? And we know Vernon Fiddler very well. He's been on our podcast. Grew up with him in the Mill Woods area here in Edmonton. But the Fiddler family and Blake Fiddler too, Al.
Yeah, I mean, great family. Can't say enough about Blake. There's guys that you're proud to represent because of who they are, the person that they are. And I would say, like, wow, this kid, he checks all the boxes, right? Like he's a great young man. Really believes in his faith. Does all the right things, off the ice, taking care of his body, making sure that he's going to achieve his potential, right? Like at the end of the day, you wake up with a purpose, and usually that takes care of who you want. If you know what your purpose is clearly, you wake up with that purpose every day. There's not a lot of thought process going on into like, okay, should I do this or that? You have your routine down path, right? So we just talked about living with pro habits. Obviously, he had a great role model in his dad, and that makes things easier because when you grow up around the game, like Josh Doan is another client, right? And I mean, there's not a lot you can tell that kid that's like, okay, well, let me tell you what it's like to play pro hockey. Like they've lived it. So sometimes you just got to let them be who they are and support them, and they make our job a lot easier that way. So yeah, I can't say enough about the human being, and he's a great player.
Yeah.
And this year was a big growth year for him. Being a 16-year-old in the WHL, not easy, and he learned a lot. But you know what? I'm sure if you ask him, he learned a lot because of the adversity. He had some rough nights. He had some games where they probably didn't play that great, and he didn't feel great about his game. But he learned from it, right? And now, like to me, when you go play major junior, pretty much any junior hockey, that 16-year-old year is kind of like your gimme year, right? Like you shouldn't feel so much pressure, but it's so hard to find a coach that'll play young players that it's kind of a trade-off. But that's the year where like I tell guys, like allow yourself mistakes. That's the year of growth, because then that 17-year-old year becomes your draft year, and that becomes a lot more pressurized. And learn from your mistakes at 16 and don't forget them, because that's how you're going to be a good 17-year-old.
And you talked about that. Well said by you. Great family. And obviously, Vernon Fiddler would know Shane Dome very well, and probably Josh Dome very well too. We'll move over to talk about the Dome family there, and obviously a pretty great story. Obviously them going over to Utah, that organization, but getting a chance to play, in the same city that his dad was, not obviously the same rink, but wearing the same jersey. How special was that to kind of see on your end, but also to see it on his end too?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be there for that first game where he scored the 2 goals, and what a night, like, and the
Were
family
you
was.
the guy taking off the shirt out? No,
No, no, that would not be me. That was his uncle, who's
yeah,
friggin' Jeff.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, and I hear he owns like a tire business back in Western Canada, so I think that helped his tire business.
yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah,
But no, I mean, again, what a humble, gracious family, and just again going back to what we talked about earlier, appreciating that we're lucky enough to be working in this sport. They get it, right? Like it's a privilege, and if you treat it like a privilege, he really did, like, and now Josh is doing the same thing. Doesn't take anything for granted. Shows up and works hard every day. Never complains about his role. And I expect that he'll have a long, successful career, not just in hockey, but in life as a whole. Like those are all ingredients for success, no matter what you do.
yeah, yeah. Two more before we get you out. We have a fan question here from Phil Stockley, and his question is: how does it work for a player that signs an entry level deal? Say he plays 8 games or 9 games, but then gets sent back to junior. Does he still get compensated for those 8 games, knowing that it doesn't burn a year off his entry level deal? How does that process work? I don't know if I would have
Yeah.
that right.
So when you're in the NHL, yes, you get your NHL pay. So they break it down per day. So if a guy's making, 850, you divide it by probably 185 days in most seasons, and then that's how much you would make per day that you're there. for those 8 or 9 games. Then when you get sent back down, if you haven't played your 10th game, it hasn't kicked in so your contract slides again. And actually, we kind of went through that with Max Comtois, where we thought Anaheim was going to send him back down, but they let him play his 10th game and then send him back down. So they burnt a year, which was kind of a weird move. But yeah, that is how it works.
Okay. All right. And then the last one here, another a question from Phil was just, with all the trades kind of going on lately, just the last few days, especially today as we record this on Wednesday, how busy it is. How busy is it for you on your end of things right now? Or are you fielding a lot of calls more than you would normally field, or is it just kind of wait till the cup final's over and that's when maybe the real kind of busyness and chaos could possibly happen?
No, I think once you get to the combine, which was almost 2 weeks ago now in Buffalo, then teams start kind of getting into their war room and figuring out, okay, what are we going to do with our restricted guys? Where do we have holes? Who's probably going to be out there? And we kind of do the same on our end, where we try to feel out the market. Like, what are you guys going to be looking for? So obviously, you got to be prepared for
Yeah.
July 1, very prepared. So I'm a big charts guy, and like I keep notes on everybody, and just to know that what you're looking at, because it happens very quickly, free agency. You got to have a pretty good feel for who's going to be looking for what and who you're calling first, basically.
Yeah. And so the cap going up 4 million, and is the escrow going to be capped at 6% this year, Al, or is it?
Correct. Yeah, we're still at 6% this year, and then it's going to be interesting because this CBA expires 26, so we got 2 more years, and then we're maybe at it again, or maybe we just extend it. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah. And are you pretty happy to see the cap go up finally and further going up more? Is that
The
kind of?
ironic part is all the agents like myself are super happy to see it going, but when you talk to the teams, it's like they're living in denial.
Yeah, it's not
Like,
happening. We didn't.
yeah, we're not, the cap's not going up. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
so that's the same argument over and over again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always a fun battle to have. So, Al, thank you for joining us this
No
evening. And
problem.
really appreciate it. This. What's your thoughts? I guess at the end, what's your thoughts of this Cup final? I know you
Oh,
got Anthony Stolarz on one end there, and um,
man. I mean, Florida opened the door.
yeah,
That's a long trip back to Edmonton. So yeah, that's going to be a really interesting one to see. I thought, okay, if it's not over after game 4, it's going to be over after game 5. And honestly, Florida came out flying.
yeah,
Yeah, yesterday. They just couldn't capitalize on it. Skinner, to his credit, came up big when he needed to, and now it's a whole different ball game. And I mean, man, can Connor ever take over a game? Like, it's crazy how good he is, right? So I still think probably Florida pulls it off because it's tough to win 4 in a
for
row, but you just never know. They just need Bob to kind of feel better again. And I mean, to his defense, he's got to be getting a little tired. I mean, he's
yeah,
played a lot of hockey, so it's going to be really interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
and I'd love to come back on your show at some point. We're working on a really cool mental health initiative
Okay,
that's something that nobody else is doing in the hockey world. So once we have that kind of launched and ready to go, I'll give you a heads up, and we can really chat about it's more to kind of support our athletes on the mental health side.
I would definitely look forward to that. Mental health advocate of my own here, and we've had Ron McLean, Kelly Rudy on with us, and done some podcasts like that before. So I would love to hear about that, and and again, whenever we can get you back on, it's a pleasure. And maybe when you're back here in Edmonton, you got some time, you can kind of meet our hockey team here too, and talk to those kids and talk to those
Yeah.
parents to kind of get your name out, the name out there more, and understanding kind of that. And like you say, it's crazy you get represented at 13 years old, but like you said, if you're not doing it, there's 600, 700 agencies doing it. But yeah, but all the best to you. Looking forward to a successful draft for RSG hockey, and
Thank you.
and also free agency too. I know I'll be busy, so thank you so much again, Al. It means a lot to us. That
Thanks for having me on. All right, buddy. You have a
take
great
care.
night.
You
All
too.
right.